All right. Peace and love, everyone. Welcome to my channel. If you're new, please like and subscribe. And I'm so delighted to be here this evening with you all to speak on this very important topic. Peace and great blessings to everyone out there. It's been a brief hiatus since the last time I did a live and some changes with my schedule. But I am here this evening and I'm very excited to be here, very delighted to be in your presence. And I hope each and every one of you that's watching this live, wherever you are surrounded by peace and love and good health and abundance. So this evening we're going to be talking about the rise of divine feminine energy, and the reason for this is because there's a lot of confusion right now, and there's a lot of things that are going on the planet that is, I would say, in some ways compromising this rise of the divine feminine. And we know, those of us who are conscious and awake, going through the awakening process, we know that we are moving into a great new era. There's been a major paradigm shift that's taking place on our planet right now and has been taking place for a while. And along with this paradigm shift, there's a great change in consciousness and awareness and just the overall way of doing things. And we've been living in a time period, the last several thousand years. They call it the Kali Yuga, the Age of Darkness, many different names. And we're moving into a time of um, greater spiritual awareness as we move from one dimension to another, from 3D to 5D or whatever D, you subscribe to. And not only is that changing, but the overall consciousness is changing. It's moving more to a matriarchal and a feminine based consciousness. For a long time, um, the divine feminine energy and feminine expression in its purest sense was suppressed, if you will, imprisoned, made to feel, you know, uh, as if I would say it was enslaved and suppressed for a very long time. For a very long time, the dominant cultures suppress women's creativity and expression, and a lot of the feminine arts and things that express women's creativity was oppressed. And there's another word I'm looking for. I would say suppressed more so. And women were made to feel ashamed for being women, and there was just a lot of oppression and mistreatment of women and anything dealing with femininity for a very long time. And it was sanctioned by different religions, by governments, by um, cultural norms and folkways and things of that nature. And for a long time, this was considered acceptable. And so much so that women also themselves would mistreat and help oppress other females, their own daughters sometimes. And this vicious cycle just went on for centuries, and it has gone on for so long that it seemed normal and to many people. But we're in an era now where people are recognizing that this is a problem, and it hasn't benefited anyone, because if the woman or if one gender is being mistreated, then it's going, or suppressed in any kind of way, it's going to create an imbalance and it's going to affect both. And so that's what we've had for a very long time, too long. And so now there's an increase in awareness of feminine energy, and the planet is just changing, and people's consciences and their minds are changing. And with that, there's a lot of shaking up and peeling away the layers of things, as we would say, on Earth, and things are just changing in so many ways. And one of them is that because for so long, um, the role of women and women's rights and opportunities and what they had access to was controlled by others, out of fear, out of just many different sources. So that's a whole nother hour-long discussion to go into that, why this happened. But we are seeing this rise in feminine energy as we move from the material to the physical, to the spiritual, from the lower dimension to 5D and beyond. We're going to start seeing, and it's already been taking place, because if you look around you, um, there's been so many major, there's always been accomplishments of women, but now you're starting to see women in more um, leadership roles, and in roles that were considered mainly the male role, or the male domain. And now you're starting to see women stepping into those roles and into those spaces that they were denied access to at one time, and now they're starting to take on those roles. So those are just some of the things that we're starting to see when we talk about the rise of divine feminine energy. um, what is woman? Now, growing up in, this culture, and being a woman of color, and growing up amongst other women of all different races and nationalities and ethnic groups, the and religious and spiritual backgrounds as well. The message that I got about what a woman is was very confusing when I was growing up. It was not clear, and everybody had their own take on it. And then when you watch television and movies, you see a lot of there's a lot of conditioning, there's a lot of stereotypical images and behaviors, and there's also the roles that you see um acted out in front of you, and those things help shape your perception, or what your perspective is. And I guess it did the same for our parents and our grandparents and our great grandparents, because like I said, the messages that I got growing up about the role of women and what a woman's role is was very confusing at times. So, woman is a divine counterpart to the divine masculine. They are twin halves of the same whole, but just different expressions. And all over the throughout the planet and throughout the world, you'll see expressions of both in some form. Even when it comes to in the natural world, you'll see expressions of divine feminine and masculine energies, and you see it everywhere in every way. It's masculine and feminine, and how those are expressed, depends on the culture. But things dealing with creativity is the feminine realm and the feminine domain, because the creativity and is something that is associated with the female, the creative principle, the creative force. You know, that is one of the major roles of femininity, is that creativity, that creative expression, that the expression that comes from within, and creative nature. The most pivotal person, well, I would say one of the most pivotal people in the family unit. And we know that society is a larger family unit, just like school is a microcosm of society. Well, society is a microcosm of the families. And so, one of the most important people in the family is the female. The female, the woman, is the one that lifts up the family. She's the nurturer. She's the one that is often the healer of the family. You know, the one, when everybody gets sick, they come to mom. They want, you know, whatever soup she has or teas to make them feel better. And we see that that nurturing, that supportive energy coming from the feminine aspect supports and lifts up and nurtures. And our ancestors viewed the woman in very high regard. If you travel throughout the earth, you will see many ancient temples and structures, and you will see expressions of the divine feminine. You will often see, in fact, the whole divine family unit. You'll see the male, the female, the child. Family was is considered sacred, or you'll see just expressions of the woman in her glory. You know, you see adorned on temple walls, you'll see statues, you'll see also images, especially when I went to Egypt in 2006. And when you see a lot of the temple structures, we went to a lot of temples on that tour that I went on, and you see images of feminine deities and women everywhere on adorning the walls. You also see images of um, certain female deities, or I guess the mothers of some of the men in the pictures, holding them up or supporting them, or with their arm around them, or standing next to them, or them sitting in the lap of female deities. And when people think about healing and transformation, is often a feminine deity, or that's seen as a feminine energy. And although there's, you know, duality, and there's one within the other, but the female, the domain, is often the one that is seen as the nurturer, the supporter, um, one who lifts others up. And one of my favorite things that I saw a lot growing up. Even my grandmother had a picture in her house of the divine Mother Mary and Jesus. My grandmother was Christian, but she had that image up in her house, and that is something that is a universal symbol that you see everywhere, of the mother embracing the child. And it's a symbol of just the unconditional love that the female has, and the love of the mother, the divine mother. Many of holy icons are also feminine in nature, like the lotus flower or some of the other symbols. They are feminine in nature, because it's going back to that feminine principle. So this time period that we're in, there's, like I said, the many of the great ancients before us spoke of this time period that we are in, and how it would be a shifting from a lower vibration of energy to a higher one, going from 3D to 5D. And in so doing with that transition, there's also changes in consciousness and the way people think. And so um, they knew that there was going to be a rise in divine feminine energy. And I would say that those around us that they're not necessarily have our best interests in heart, know that there's also going to be a rise in female and the divine feminine as well. And they are using it and weaponizing it in a negative way to distract us from what the female really is. So you are starting to see a lot of thought thought THOT culture manifesting everywhere. You know, at one time, this kind of stuff was unacceptable. Now, this dominant culture is pushing that you know it's okay to for women to express themselves in a way that is low vibrating or a way that is negative and hurtful and harmful for females, because we're in an era right now where so much change and so much progress is being made in terms of things that like I said, women have access to now. There's so much progress um, in politics and all other areas where women are just growing and developing and doing things in leaps and bounds that really was frowned upon decades ago, and now it's there's so much more that we're having access to and we're able to do and express nowadays. And at the same time that's happening, we are having this thought culture put on us, and it's all around you, and a lot of people dislike it, don't support it, but there is an appetite for that kind of culture and behavior, and it's being celebrated. You know, the over sexualized, the base low vibrational behavior, you know, women being um, objectified and treated like sex objects, and then you know expressing that on their own, like that's empowering in ways that and you see it in sports, you see it in the music industry, um television, the media, and it's just not the negativity and the negative symbolism is an image that is um not good for young people or anybody of any age, but especially not the young people who are very impressionable. And you know, many people feel like this is the only expression for females, or this is something that is empowering. And I implore all of you that you know we have to show our young people and better examples, and better show them that there's so much that they could accomplish using their minds and using their talents and the gifts that they have, and not just their body, because you know the body is just a vessel, and you are the soul that dwells within. And we need to tell our young ladies this, and our children, male and female, that they are so much more than just the physical, but they're the spirit is who they really are, and more importantly what they do is who they are, not so much how they look. And we had a lecture some time ago about that when Sister Netfa was on the show, and we were talking about um, how we express and adorn ourselves, and you know that is reflecting who you are. And the same is about your behavior and your actions. Your behavior and your actions say a lot about who and what you are, and whose you are. So that's something that we all need to really focus on, not so much what your body looks like or what certain parts of it look like, and stop you know flaunting that, but who are you? What are you? What are you teaching? What are you doing? What legacy are you leaving behind? Um, we have to, as women, especially women as color, you know, it's up to us to restore the image that we have for ourselves and make for ourselves. Like if you know, you see so many negative examples out here, um, flaunting the thought culture and the other bad behaviors, and pushing this as this is women, this is you know this is how women of color behave, or this is you know it's feeding stereotypes, and it's feeding a lot of negative images of us, and it's taking us back generations. But we want to go forward, and to go forward, you know, we need to restore the image that we have for ourselves and make our own images, and not let the dominant culture define for us what's beauty, what's you know, not they shouldn't define who our role models are, who we should be following and listening to. That's something that we should be deciding and we should be choosing. And the images that they're giving us as what is attractive and what a woman is, especially a woman of color, we have to find images and create images that to be celebrated and deserving of praise and in high regard. And a lot of these images that they are giving us is not something that we would choose for ourselves, and nor is it something that has a lasting positive effect on us in our communities. At one time, they would only celebrate women who looked a certain way, and women were encouraged to look more like the dominant culture, and they didn't celebrate their own natural beauty, nor was it considered acceptable at one time. And so we changed that, and people started embracing their natural beauty, their own endowment, because women of all shapes and sizes, all beautiful in their own way. And now it's like they're almost like they're trying to take us backwards, back to something that we've strove so hard to break the barriers and to establish ourselves, and to create our own images for ourselves and our own images of beauty. And now we're being told that the over sexualized image again is the right one. And just because everybody's doing something doesn't make it right. And as you can see around you, especially like if you go on social media, a lot of the models and the influencers all look very much alike, because that's the standard right now, that look that you see everywhere. I mean, you don't have to go far to see it. Even if you're not somebody that watches television, you see this image everywhere. All the majority of the influencers look very much alike, and a lot of the models and the people that they put before us, they all have similar looks, because this is the standard that's being pushed. And we have to ask ourselves, is this a standard that we want to live up to? Is this the image that we want to uphold? Is this the image that we want to uphold for ourselves and for our children and our future generations? And think about that. Keep that in mind when you're praising certain things, when you're listening to certain things, when you're displaying certain things in front of others, especially your children and the young ones that are watching all of us. And we all have some responsibility for our behavior, not just for ourselves and our own families, but others as well, because the young people are impressionable and they're watching us. And we're their elders, supposed to be, and we have to set that proper example and show them and teach them the right way, even if the dominant society is teaching them wrong. So when I was growing up, there was a lot of talk about what a woman's place. I used to hear that, a woman's place. And many people will say a woman's place is in the home, a woman's place is behind a man, a woman's place is this or that. A woman's place is wherever she wants it to be, because we have the power to choose for ourselves the life that we want. I am a believer in marriage. However, I do not condone forced marriages or prearranged marriages that are not for the best interest of all those involved. And oftentimes people are pressured, forced, or coerced into marriages by family members, whether they had good intentions or not. But this is something that we should choose, because marriage is sacred between people. And this is something that you should go into with a right mind, right and sober mind. And it should be something that you want to put your commitment and your energy into, and building this relationship with another. And it should be something that you should choose to do and not be forced to do, because anytime you force someone to do something, it's not going to be authentic. And at some point there's going to be some hurt feelings, And this is one of the reasons why it's not as popular, and I am on live. This is why it's not as marriage is not as popular amongst this generation. Sorry, y'all, but it's because of a lot of the negative connotations towards it in the past. And, lots of people have this negative image in their minds of marriage because it was something that a lot of women did not have free will and a choice in. When they got a certain age, their family chose to make them a wife to someone. They were given away, they were sold to someone in exchange for goods. They weren't given a choice. It was like you either, some families is once you reached puberty, they started looking for somebody for you, and then next thing you know, you went from your family's home to your husband's home. And these oftentimes these women didn't have a lot of choice and a lot of say so in their lives. And so now um that is changing, and a woman's place is wherever she wants to be, and she should have that right to choose. Now most women are going to choose to be wives and mothers, but then there's some who would like to take other routes in their lives or postpone it for a time later, and that is perfectly okay. It's better to choose being a mother um, because you want to be a mother, and you are ready to take on that role versus becoming a mother because this is what everybody expected you to be, and it wasn't planned, and it wasn't something that you wanted to put your full commitment and your full attention to. So a woman's place again is she should have the right to make the choice what her place is, where her place is in society, in the family, and in the home. Her contribution should be appreciated and heard. You have many cultures around the world where the women help choose the leaders, or the women were the leaders in certain tribal communities and certain societies, and that was not viewed with any kind of suspicion. People did not feel that that was strange at all, because just like the woman isn't runs the household and cares for and nurtures the family, she does the same thing in a leadership role when she's chosen or elected to be a leader within the community. She will do the same. And a lot of places, cultures, the women actually, a group of elder women or would be the ones who would choose the chief or the kings or queens or what have you, and their input and their wisdom was sought and appreciated by everyone. So the woman played many, many multiple and multifaceted roles within the community, not just as mother and wife. She did not take a subordinate role in the past, and for a long time, we've been forced to take these kind of roles and put in places that are not supportive of our true essence as women and as the healers and nurturers, and just the that stabilizing force within the family. And right now, in the last several years, there's been a lot of movies and shows that have been coming out that also are about women and women's rising to power, and women's role as leaders. There was a movie that came out a couple of years ago called The Woman King. There was another one, Wakanda Forever, which was the sequel to the previous movie, the Black Panther. I think, yeah, the previous movie where the male leader passed away, but in the second movie, Wakanda Forever, there was a female leader who took on that role. And then there was also a movie called The Way of Water, which was the sequel to Avatar, the one that came out in 2009. So there was a sequel that came out maybe about 2 years ago. And all of those films actually came out kind of around the same time. And they all had a lot of elements about female empowerment, female bonding, and female lifting each other up and supporting and providing not only guidance but support on many different levels within their communities in those movies. If you took a look at that, you would see the common theme in all of them was the appreciation and the value for the female input and what she has to bring and offer. And let me see what else we talk about tonight. But all of this is very important when it comes to how we view ourselves as women. Um, in the last several years, there's been a whole lot of women's support groups. I've been a part of some. As a listener, I've also helped facilitate some. There's been a lot of women's healing groups, support groups, and things like that because for so long there's been a lot of pain and trauma that has been intergenerational that we have passed on from generation to generation and within the society in general, and the confusion about women's roles and women's rights. And now women are starting to empower themselves and one another. And as they heal, as one woman heals, she heals her whole, she can heal her whole family. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad even said that a nation can rise no higher than its woman, meaning the level of status and achievement of the women within the community will show you how advanced or what levels of achievement that society will have, because women make up over half of the population, and not having any say so, any contributions in that population or that society is going to be a great imbalance there if they're not allowed to express themselves and be active and actively engaged and involved in the society. It's actually going to take things backwards instead of being progressive and going forward. And with that said, let's keep that in mind as we interact with one another, as we support one another, and um, as we move forward with advancements in our culture. I work with some amazing women now. There's a lot of um, change on the horizon and agencies that are working with reproductive justice for women as well as and families, and also just being more supportive of one another in this in our families, because it's all about healing the whole unit, not just the female, not just the male, but healing everybody. All of us are you know parts of one, we're all parts of the same whole. And when there's one that's suffering, they both suffer. So we want to make sure that we continue to find that balance and that healing, and to support and lift one another up, and not have an imbalance in our society where one is dominant over the other. And we want to work together as a unit, as one, and come together as one as we continue to work and help one another heal and evolve in our society. So with that said, I pray that each and every one of you um, uh, got something beneficial from tonight's talk. If there's something else you would like to talk about further, send me an email. I look forward to hearing from each and every one of you. And thank you to everyone who reaches out to me on Instagram and other social media platforms. I really appreciate and look forward to hearing from each and every one of you. I hope you all have a wonderful, peaceful evening and the rest of your week. Peace and great blessings.